today I'm looking at how to balance a larger setup, a heavier setup with an iPhone 12 Pro Max and what I call a hybrid gimbal. I've done several videos on this recently, so this is like a follow-up to the follow-up because I absolutely recommend these gimbals with this larger phone, but some people have said they're having a little bit of a challenge balancing this larger phone on this gimbal. And so today we'll take a quick look at how I do that. Learn how to turn your smartphone into a professional quality video camera. Be sure to check out our mobile filmmaking courses, master the FiLMiC Pro app, or color grading in LumaFusion, and learn about smartphone video and cinematography. And also don't forget, we have a companion filmmaking podcast. Links are in the description. All right, well, in my last video, and if you haven't watched those, by the way, I'll put a link in the description because they'll tie into this, although this video can be a standalone video on how to balance this gimbal. But I mentioned that on this particular gimbal, the G6 Max from FeiyuTech, that the phone clamp is, I don't know, it's not flimsy, but it's not ideal for these larger phones. Look how much bigger that is. I don't know if you can see that or not. This thing has to really stretch out. And on top of that, this is not very wide, the actual lip, so to speak, where the phone clasps it down. And so I'm going to use this one from Ulanzi today. And it is a really affordable one that is, pretty nice actually. It works well. And it's made out of metal. And the main thing too is I want it to be pretty much straight up and down, more upright, because that way it'll help keep the phone centered on the gimbal versus some of these type clamps will push the phone out further to the front or further to the back, depending on the brand. So I'll put this on first and then we'll balance the gimbal. Again, you can see the difference, the size difference here. This is really made for smaller phones, this particular clamp. The gimbal itself will hold pretty much anything, phone-wise especially. So we'll set this aside. Now on this gimbal, you have various ways to adjust the parameters, so to speak, and I'm talking about not using the app, but actually the physical aspects of the gimbal. So I'll just go over those real quickly if you're brand new to working with gimbals. Down here on the base, you can loosen this and you can push it forward or back. With smartphones, I tend to just leave this pretty much in the middle. That really makes more of a difference if you're using a camera with a longer lens on it. Then you have on the back of the gimbal here, an adjustment for side to side. Depends on the size of the setup, but you can slide it back and forth. And by the way, this is similar for all gimbals. They'll have different ways that you actually adjust these parameters, but they all function in a very similar manner. And then on the front here, or the bottom actually, you can adjust this and you can slide the device in and out. It works similar to the setting on the back, but this just gives you more fine-tuned adjustment. Another adjustment that I don't really mess with using phones because they're so top-heavy is this one on the side. This is the tilt axis. You can unscrew that and push it up and down like that. Typically speaking, I keep it all the way to the bottom. And so I just pull that down as far as I can and lock it in place. And then I don't adjust that again, but that is there if you need it. And then the last one is actually the clamp itself, where I screwed that in. So you can adjust this forward and back. Now, different gimbals do this differently. Some of them will actually have a control over here where you can slide this apparatus back and forth. And in a way, I like that better. You can fine tune it better, but it works fine here with the G6 Max. All right, so now I'll put the phone on. And really, I probably should have put my lens on here first, to be honest, and I'll go ahead and do that right now. And this is the lens I'm using. It's really more of a lens setup. And again, if you haven't seen my previous video, go watch that. You'll see how I put this together. But this is a Moment anamorphic with their 62mm filter adapter, and then a Tiffin 62mm variable ND. And I will put this on the phone now. And remember on the 12 Pro Max, and this actually works to your advantage, the wide lens is the inner lens instead of the outer lens. The outer lens is the tele. And so for this example, I'm gonna use the wide lens. And that's on there. And so now with that on there, obviously that's kind of a mess. And I don't really have this nearly tightened up on the bottom now either. And so now all I do here is I just adjust these parameters, these settings of the various physical aspects of the gimbal, the X-axis, the Y-axis, just the various aspects of this until I can get it balanced. And so the first thing I would do is this back section, I would slide it this way. And now that's pretty good. That's pretty even left and right. So I'll tighten that down. Now that's back heavy, and so I want to move it forward. Now the bottom piece is already good. That's pretty well balanced. That could probably go a little bit forward. That doesn't affect really what I'm doing here though. This, I want to go all the way to the left as far as I can. One negative to using these kind of setups though, is if I wanted to plug in a microphone, that would make it really tricky. I'd have to put it out here to the right further and then most likely use a counterweight. In this setup, I'm attempting to not use that counterweight. And now the main thing I need to do is balance it forward. And really the only way to do that with this gimbal is to push it forward here with the tripod mount. And so that's what I've done. I moved it forward. I'm gonna keep it as even as possible. Now by doing that, I need to adjust this back a little more. That's getting close. Just a little bit angled there, more than I want. All right, this may not actually balance without having the gimbal on, just because of its being so top heavy. The Ulanzi mount is obviously heavier than the original one that they provide. But it also holds the phone much better, and it has a cold shoe up here that you could put a light or a microphone on. Of course, if you do that, you'll need to rebalance everything. But this is pretty good. In a perfect world, you'd have it balanced without having to touch anything, and it's close. It just tends to go back just a little bit because it's so top heavy. But let me just hold it and turn it on and see if it grabs it. It did, it grabbed it, no problem. So I'm now able to do the various spins and pans and tilts, and that took me probably 3 or so minutes to balance. This video was edited for time a little bit, but hopefully you can see that balancing these type of setups really is not difficult, even with this top heavy alignment. Now, one quick note, and I've had several comments, a lot of people are suggesting that they'll flip this upside down and put the lens on the bottom. I'm not gonna demonstrate that now. I may show that in a future video, but that way you don't have a top heavy setup and your lens will be on this side and the lightning port is on this side. So that way you could plug in a microphone. Just something to consider. And again, you balance this the same way with the Moza Mini-P or another similar gimbal now, especially because they've dropped the price, is the Ronin SC. So that's one you might consider checking out. Links for all these will be in the description below. So hopefully this tutorial helped a little bit. This is a pretty decently sized setup for a phone because of the ND filter and the case. And then again, the iPhone 12 Pro Max is just a really big phone. The largest phone that I've ever worked with, and definitely the largest phone that Apple has ever made. All right, well, thanks for watching, guys. This is Blake Calhoun. Please like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.